Hey, tonight we're exploring the creepiest way the human body keeps you alive. Not with drama, not with thunder, but in silence. You're lying there now. Still, quiet. But something under your skin is not still at all. Your body is paying attention, even if you aren't. Right now, your heart is making microscopic adjustments. Your lungs are negotiating air without asking for your opinion, and your skin is quietly filtering the night through a web of sensation. Outside, the world has softened. The windows have turned into mirrors. The air feels cooler, not by much, but just enough to notice if you really listen. There's a hum in the background. Maybe the fan, maybe the fridge, maybe your own thoughts. But underneath all of it is a deeper hum. Something mechanical, primal, something older than language and more loyal than thought. Your body. It is always working, always listening, even now. And it has ways of keeping you alive. Methods you never asked for. Defenses you never signed off on. Tonight, we'll walk through some of those ways. They're quiet, sometimes beautiful, often unsettling. You probably won't survive this world unchanged, but that's the point. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you enjoy quiet stories like this. And if you're still awake, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is there. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're not aware of your heartbeat until it speeds up. You don't notice your breath until it catches. But what if I told you something? Something inside you notices everything, all the time. There's a quiet network beneath your skin, a lattice of sensors and chemical detectors that never, ever rest. They stretch through your joints, your muscle walls, your arteries and lungs. They monitor pressure, stretch, pH, oxygen, carbon dioxide. They even detect pain before you do, or decide not to tell you about it right away. You might think of your nervous system as highways and wiring, but under the surface, it's more like a garden of watchers, nodding in agreement or silently alerting the central command. Something's wrong. Or might be. Or could be. This isn't just a metaphor. There are real cells called baroreceptors in your arteries, sensing when your blood pressure drops. Maybe because you stood up too fast. Maybe because something else is wrong. They react in a fraction of a second to correct it, tightening vessels, accelerating heart rate. You don't notice. You just stay upright. But if they fail, you collapse. Your vision tunnels. The world tilts. Some of these sensors sit at the base of your skull, near the carotid sinus. A strange little place that, if pressed too hard, can cause fainting or even cardiac arrest. It's like a kill switch hidden under your jawline, placed there by evolution, ready to act if something's off. No one taught you how to use these systems. They don't belong to the conscious you. They belong to the other you, the one who exists only in sensation and pulse. And then there's proprioception, the eerie ability to know where your limbs are, even in complete darkness. Close your eyes and raise your arm. You still know where it is. That's not your thoughts doing that. That's a silent orchestra of stretch receptors, muscle spindles, and feedback loops whispering in the dark. People who lose that sense from injury, infection, or brain damage describe it as horrifying. Their limbs become ghosts. Imagine holding your own hand and not feeling it's there. And yet, all this happens effortlessly for you, right now. Even your balance, something so delicate, is monitored by tiny fluid-filled canals inside your ears. When the fluid shifts, hair-like cells bend, sending signals to your brain about your orientation in space. It's why you can stand on one foot with your eyes closed for a while. And if that fails, from illness or trauma, your entire world tilts and spins, even if you're lying perfectly still. A betrayal from inside. Here's something stranger. Your reflexes, the spinal ones, don't even ask your brain before they react. When your hand jerks away from a hot stove, it's not thought. It's not choice. The signal goes to your spine, loops back out, and your muscles contract. Only afterward does the brain receive the update. You were almost hurt. I took care of it. So much of your survival depends on reactions that occur before you, as you think of yourself, even exist in the loop. There's a debate that still echoes among neuroscientists. Who is you? Are you the voice in your head, or the responses you never chose? The breathing you don't remember starting? The heartbeat you didn't sign off on? Some researchers argue that the self is just a convenient fiction, a narrator riding a much older machine. And that machine? It doesn't sleep when you do. It keeps checking, adjusting, preparing. Imagine this. You're asleep on your side. You start to roll too far. Your arm goes numb. The weight shifts. Before you wake, your body twitches slightly, enough to prevent a dangerous posture that might cut off circulation. You didn't choose to move. You didn't know what was happening. But something inside you did. It noticed, it acted, and then it disappeared again. How many times have you been saved from injury, or worse, by something you never knew was watching? Not all guardians are loud. Sometimes the creepiest kind are the quiet ones. You breathe in, then out. And it feels like a choice, but it isn't. Not really. Breathing is one of the few things your body pretends you control. A rhythm so deeply wired into your survival that even when you're unconscious, it continues without your permission. You can hold your breath, sure, for a moment. You can shape it, slow it, deepen it, but only for a while. Eventually, something inside you will decide. That's enough. You'll gasp, not because you want to, but because your body has decided to override you. It doesn't care about your willpower. It has its own timer. And if necessary, it will take back control. There's something unnerving about that, isn't there? You live in this illusion, this partnership, that you and your breath are equals. But you're not. Breathing lets you play along, until it doesn't. This dual control system is centered in a tiny cluster of neurons at the base of your brainstem. It's called the pre-Butzinger complex. Not very poetic, but essential. This cluster pulses in rhythm, constantly, like a biological metronome, sending quiet signals to your diaphragm and chest wall. You don't feel it happening. You just breathe, even when you're sleeping, even if you're in a coma. If this cluster is damaged, the rhythm stops. You stop. Not because your lungs forgot how, but because the conductor left the stage. It's strange to realize breathing is an ancient reflex, older than speech, older than thought, even older than bones in their modern shape. In jellyfish, the rhythm of pulse and flow works much the same way. The ocean breathes through them, and in a way, you're still carrying that ocean rhythm inside you. But there's another layer to all this. Something a little darker. Your body doesn't actually measure oxygen when it decides to breathe. It measures carbon dioxide, the waste product. Only when CO2 builds up does your body say, "We need air." You could have dangerously low oxygen and feel fine, as long as CO2 hasn't climbed. This is why people can pass out without warning at high altitudes, or why some gases, like carbon monoxide, can kill you silently, because your sensors don't recognize the danger. They weren't built for that. They evolved to respond to the feeling of suffocation, not to actual lack of oxygen. This blind spot in your survival system has caused more than one quiet death, and here's where it gets eerie. In certain cases, near drownings, extreme trauma, seizures, the brain can enter a state where it forgets how to breathe. The signals fade, the rhythm stops, but the body doesn't die immediately. There's a moment, just a few seconds, where the brain is silent, the breath is gone, and yet the heart continues. A body suspended between the reflex and the void. Some people who've been revived from these states describe a strange moment, an in-between, where time stutters and they feel both very far and very near. Science has no full explanation for this. The line between breath and awareness is thinner than we thought. There's another unsettling truth. Some people breathe too much. Chronic hyperventilation syndrome causes people to breathe shallowly and rapidly, even when resting. And ironically, this can make you feel short of breath. Too much breathing can lead to too little oxygen in the cells. You feel lightheaded, anxious, disconnected from your own body. Doctors used to dismiss this. Some still do. But your breath and your mind are linked more intimately than we understand. Slow breathing can calm the brain. Fast breathing can trigger panic. You can even make yourself faint just by changing your rhythm. Ancient traditions, like yogic breathing, Sufi chanting, or Japanese Zen, have long known this. They use the breath as a doorway, a key, sometimes a weapon. Some monks can slow their breathing to just a few inhales per minute. Some freedivers train themselves to go without breath for minutes at a time, their hearts slowing to conserve oxygen. In that state, they say the world feels distant, dreamlike. A bit like this moment. Even newborns have strange breathing patterns. They stop and start. Sometimes they hold their breath for several seconds, then resume. It's normal, but if you didn't know that, you might think something was wrong. Breath is wild, chaotic, easily disturbed, and sometimes it turns against us. Sleep apnea is a condition where the airway collapses during sleep. The brain, sensing danger, jolts you awake, sometimes dozens of times an hour. Most people don't remember waking, but their bodies do. They wake up exhausted, irritable, confused. It's like being dragged out of the void over and over again, never knowing why. In the most severe cases, breathing can stop for over a minute, then resume with a violent gasp. Partners who witness it say it looks like drowning. In bed, at rest, in silence, you may not think about your breath much, but it thinks about you, constantly. In Tibetan sky burials, it's said that the final breath, the out-breath, is what carries the soul away. The body is silent afterward. But something still feels present. Maybe that's just the mind lingering. Or maybe it's something older, something wordless, the memory of breath itself. So now, take a breath. Not too deep, just enough. Let it go slowly, and listen to how your body thanks you for it. Without words, without praise, just a small pause, a moment of peace, before it starts the rhythm again. Your heart beats, and you didn't tell it to. It contracts, expands, squeezes blood through miles of winding vessels. It does this without apology, without doubt, and without your involvement. It's easy to forget that. You wake up, drink coffee, scroll past the morning light, and all the while, thump, 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 it continues. Even now. You didn't earn it. You didn't negotiate for it. Your heart just does. That might be comforting, but it's also unsettling. Because if you're not the one telling it to keep going, who is? The heart has its own internal pacemaker, a cluster of specialized cells in the sinoatrial node, nestled inside the right atrium. These cells generate tiny electrical signals that ripple across the heart, telling it when to contract. They do this even when the brain is silent, even when every other system is gone. That's why a heart can keep beating outside the body. Doctors call it autorhythmicity. You could call it something else, insistence, the body's quiet refusal to stop. In transplant procedures, a donor heart is removed, packed on ice, transported miles away, placed into a different chest, and when rewarmed and given a signal, it starts to beat again. Not because someone told it to, but because that's what it knows how to do. In one recorded case, a preserved heart, days after removal, gave off spontaneous electrical flickers, as if it was remembering something, as if it was still waiting for blood. Some ancient cultures believed the heart held the soul, that the rhythm of a person's life lived inside it, not in the mind. Maybe they weren't entirely wrong, because the heart remembers, not just rhythm, but trauma. After certain emotional events, like grief, shock, or betrayal, some people experience a strange condition called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, or broken heart syndrome. Their heart changes shape, temporarily. It stops pumping efficiently. The left ventricle balloons outward, mimicking a heart attack. Doctors see it on scans. The organ literally stunned. It usually heals. But the memory lingers. A quiet bruise no one can see. The heart listens to your emotions, not metaphorically, chemically. It reacts to cortisol, adrenaline, oxytocin, grief. It speeds up during panic, slows during rest, flutters during love. When you're afraid, your body releases a cocktail of hormones. Adrenaline tightens blood vessels and tells the heart, pump faster. The heart obeys, without question. But sometimes it overreacts. A rare phenomenon called sudden cardiac death can strike even healthy people, often young athletes. They collapse mid-movement, no warning, no trauma, just a rhythm gone rogue. Doctors still debate what triggers it. An electrical storm inside the heart? A genetic flaw that only reveals itself at high exertion? We don't fully know. The heart can be terrifying in that way, because it's strong, loyal, but not perfect. It sometimes makes mistakes. And yet, most of the time, it doesn't. It ticks away while you daydream. It taps out a rhythm when you're anxious. You press a hand to your chest, feel that familiar thump, and something inside you relaxes. Still here, still going. Did you know your heart doesn't beat at a fixed rhythm? It speeds up slightly as you inhale, slows a little as you exhale. This subtle change is called respiratory sinus arrhythmia, and it's actually a good sign. The more variation in your heart's rhythm, the healthier you tend to be. In medicine, this is called heart rate variability, HRV for short. A flexible rhythm means your body adapts well to stress, to sleep, to movement. When the rhythm becomes too fixed, too robotic, that's when doctors worry. Your heart was never meant to be a machine. There's something else, something stranger. In rare transplant cases, recipients have reported new preferences or memories, a sudden craving for foods they never liked, dreams filled with faces they don't know, feelings of déjà vu, but in someone else's life. Science dismisses most of these as coincidence, but the stories persist. One woman, after receiving a donor heart, developed a love for classical guitar, only to later learn her donor had been a musician. Another man claimed to dream vividly of running through forests. His donor? A young park ranger. There's no proven biological mechanism for this, but it raises a quiet question. What else lives in a heartbeat? When you were still in the womb, your heart started beating before your brain was fully formed. It didn't wait for orders. It just began, like a spark in the dark. In some cultures, the word for heart is also the word for mind. In ancient Egypt, the heart was weighed after death, not the brain. If it was heavier than a feather, you were judged unworthy. That's poetic, of course, but also strangely literal, because the heart does carry weight. So now, lie still for a moment. Can you feel it? Not just the beat, but the space around it, the silence between the thumps. That is where your story lives. Your heart will beat over 100,000 times today. And yet, you might not notice even one, unless it stops, unless it stutters, unless it surprises you. The creepiest part of all? You can't turn it off. Even if you try, it doesn't care if you're ready. It only cares if you're alive. You lie still, your body quiet. But deep inside you, past the skin, past the muscles, your bones are listening. They aren't hollow. They aren't silent. They're alive. That may sound strange. You've probably imagined bones as the dry, white structures of old skeletons in museums or diagrams, but your bones are nothing like that. Not now. Not while you're living. They're warm, dense, pulsing with life, threaded with blood vessels and nerves, filled with soft, spongy marrow that generates your blood, a red river born inside the dark. And here's the eerie part. Your bones don't just hold you up, they sense things. Inside each of your bones are tiny structures called osteocytes, specialized cells nestled deep within the mineral walls. They reach out with delicate arms, forming a vast, silent network, like coral or roots, communicating in whispers of chemical signals and electrical pulses. These cells aren't just maintaining structure. They're responding to pressure, movement, and surprisingly, emotion. Because bones can tell when you're scared. It's subtle. You don't feel it happen. But when you're stressed or anxious, your brain floods your bloodstream with cortisol. And that hormone doesn't just affect your mood, it reaches your bones. Bone cells have receptors for cortisol, almost as if they're watching the emotional weather. In high-stress conditions, the activity of bone-building cells slows. Breakdown speeds up. Over time, chronic stress can literally reshape your skeleton from the inside. It's as if your bones are retreating, thinning, in quiet response to a world that feels unsafe. And in return, they do something strange. They talk back to your brain. Recent research shows that bones release osteocalcin, a protein that doesn't just affect bone health, it crosses into the brain and influences mood, memory, and fear response. When animals are stressed, their bones send more of this chemical. Scientists believe it's a way for the skeleton to tell the brain, we're under threat. Be alert. Be ready. Your bones, in essence, help amplify fear, not just by holding tension, but by chemically reinforcing it. The idea that your skeleton is part of your emotional response system is still new in neuroscience. It breaks the old idea that emotions are just in your head. They're also in your blood, your stomach, your bones, and sometimes they linger there. Archaeologists studying ancient remains have found signs of stress in bones, not just breaks or trauma, but subtle changes in density, in growth patterns. Indicators of famine, disease, or even social stress encoded like messages inside calcium and collagen. Imagine someone who lived 10,000 years ago. We don't know their name, but we know they were afraid. Their bones still tell us. There's something else, more immediate. When you're startled, your body tenses. You feel it in your shoulders, your spine. But what you don't feel is how your bones subtly vibrate, how pressure travels through them. Soldiers in high-stress environments sometimes report phantom vibrations, the feeling of footsteps or impact long after the sound has stopped. Their bones were primed for shock, and they remember. In a way, Your skeleton is your most honest self. You can fake calmness on your face, still your breath, even slow your heart. But your bones always reveal the truth. Doctors use a technology called bone scintigraphy, injecting tracers to watch how bones absorb chemicals. What they find sometimes confuses them. High activity in spots where there was no known injury, fluctuations in areas with no pain, as if the bone is responding to something unseen. Pain, too, can be a ghost in the skeleton. People who've lost limbs, arms, legs, often report phantom limb pain. They feel the bone, even when it's gone. It's a strange paradox. Your bones are both physical and imagined, tangible and remembered. Some cultures believed bones held memory, that touching the remains of the dead allowed communion. In certain rituals, bones were used not for mourning, but for listening. You carry your own bones with you always. But how often do you feel them? Right now, beneath the softness of your bed, your bones are bearing your weight, adapting slightly, adjusting tiny angles. Even at rest, they are working. And they are watching. Not in a conscious way, not with thoughts, but through pressure, chemistry, vibration. They are trying to protect you, trying to hold you upright, trying to keep you you. When you walk, your bones generate small electrical charges, a phenomenon called piezoelectricity. Every step, every shift of weight creates a quiet current. Some researchers believe this may help guide bone growth. Others wonder if it's part of how the body maintains awareness of itself in space. What's certain is this: your bones are not passive. They're participants in your life, even in your fear. And when you fall, when you fracture, when your bones break, they don't just heal, they remember how. Bone healing is one of the most coordinated survival acts in biology. Cells rush to the break. Blood vessels rebuild, stem cells awaken, the architecture reforms, the scar fades, and somehow you remain whole. For a while anyway. Later in life, bones become more brittle, they grow quieter, but they still respond to stress, to movement, to fear, and to silence. So tonight, as you lie still, think of them, those quiet sentinels, the ones who carry you, the ones who know. You don't need to do anything. They've already noticed what you're feeling. They're already responding. There's a reason you say, I have a bad feeling in my gut. It's not just a metaphor. It's not just poetry. Your gut really does feel. It reacts. Sometimes even before your brain knows why. Right now, as you lie there, still quiet, there's another brain working inside you. It hums beneath your awareness. A soft, slow current of information and reaction. It's called the enteric nervous system, a vast web of neurons lining your digestive tract from the base of your throat all the way through your intestines. It contains over 100 million neurons. That's more than your spinal cord. It's often called your second brain. But that's not quite right, because in some ways, it was your first. Long before the human brain developed its folds and thoughts and personality, organisms had to digest food, had to sense danger in what they swallowed, had to react quickly before poison or parasites spread. The gut developed intelligence to protect the body, not with words, not with reasoning, but with sensation. Even today, that system works independently. If the spinal cord is severed, the gut still functions. It doesn't need your brain's permission to keep going, and sometimes it doesn't even ask. Your gut is filled with specialized cells that sense tension, stretch, pressure. They can detect bacteria, irritants, inflammation. And when something seems wrong, even if you haven't consciously noticed it, the gut responds. It may tighten, release hormones, shift blood flow, whisper to the brain in biochemical signals, something's off. That's the gut feeling. It's not magic. It's not superstition. It's a neurochemical intuition born of 100,000 quiet alerts, each one too small to notice on its own, but together, they form a warning. And your body listens. That queasy twist before bad news. That hollow sensation when something isn't right. That wave of nausea before fear even has a name. Those aren't just nerves. They're a conversation between you and the part of you that lives below language. And sometimes, it's the gut that speaks first. Here's something stranger. Your gut doesn't just talk to the brain. It influences how the brain works. Inside your intestines live trillions of microbes, bacteria, viruses, fungi, collectively called the gut microbiome. These microscopic passengers are not passive. They digest your food, yes, but they also manufacture neurotransmitters, serotonin, dopamine, GABA. About 90% of your serotonin, the chemical often associated with mood and well-being, is produced in your gut, not your brain. Let that settle in for a moment. Your mood, your sense of self, is being partly managed by bacteria. Some researchers believe that changes in your microbiome can alter your anxiety levels, your appetite, your ability to focus. There's even early evidence suggesting that gut bacteria may influence decision-making. In experiments, when scientists transplant gut microbes from anxious mice into calm ones, the calm mice begin to act nervous. Their body chemistry shifts, their behavior changes, all from microbes. And what's more, those microbes can sense your stress. They can alter their chemical output based on your emotional state. It's a two-way relationship. You affect them, they affect you. It's a quiet collaboration, or sometimes a subtle hijacking. Some call the gut the seat of instinct. But what if instinct is just the sum of 100 microscopic opinions, each nudging you gently toward caution? In some cases, these nudges can save your life. A sudden, unexplained aversion to a certain food, smell, or environment, it might not make sense at first, but later you find out. The food was spoiled. The air held something toxic. Your gut knew, and yet the system isn't flawless. Sometimes your gut overreacts. People with anxiety disorders often experience gastrointestinal symptoms, cramps, bloating, nausea, even when the threat isn't real. It's like the gut is stuck in a loop, whispering, something's wrong, even when nothing is. Some researchers wonder if this comes from early trauma, if the gut learned to fear certain signals and never unlearned it. There's still so much we don't know. But one thing is clear, the gut is not just about digestion, it's about survival. Even in sleep, your digestive system works. It processes, sorts, filters. If you've ever had a vivid emotional dream after a late-night meal, you might have felt the strange influence of the gut-brain axis, that mysterious bridge between sensation and imagination. Some people dream more intensely when they're digesting. Some wake up with a knot in the stomach and no idea why. Maybe it's just biology. Or maybe it's something deeper, a reflex echoing into the unconscious mind. There's an old phrase, trust your gut. And maybe now you see why. Because your gut isn't just a machine. It's a witness, a judge, a nervous system that feels fear, hope, and hunger in ways that words can't explain. So tonight, as your mind quiets and your breath slows, feel the space just below your ribs, not as an organ, but as a presence, something older than thought. Something that has always known when to tighten and when to release. Let it be quiet now. Let it keep watch. You've trusted it this far. There's something moving through you right now, just beneath the skin. You can't see it. You can't hear it, but it's everywhere. Your blood. You might picture it as passive, a simple red liquid carried through vessels like water through pipes. But blood is not passive. It listens, it decides, it remembers, and sometimes it refuses. Right now, in the dark stillness of your body, blood cells are making choices. How tightly to cling, how quickly to clot, which tissues to nourish, which ones to avoid. It's a fluid with judgment, honed over millions of years. Every drop is filled with cells, red ones that carry oxygen, white ones that fight, platelets that patch wounds. But more than that, it's filled with messages. Tiny protein signals float through your plasma. Cytokines, hormones, enzymes, each one a whisper, a request, a command. When you're injured, your blood doesn't just leak, it responds. Platelets rush to the breach, gathering at the edges. They change shape, they release chemicals, they call for reinforcements, and the blood begins to thicken, a process so precise, so synchronized that scientists still marvel at its timing. Clotting happens just where it's needed, most of the time. But sometimes the blood decides wrong. Sometimes it clots too much or too little. A rogue clot can lodge in the lungs, in the brain, in the heart, and end everything in silence. That's the paradox. The same process that keeps you alive can also kill you. There's a condition called disseminated intravascular coagulation, DISC. It happens when the blood starts to clot everywhere at once. Small clots form inside vessels, starving organs of oxygen. But because the clotting factors are used up, the body can no longer stop real bleeding. You bleed and clot and bleed again. A system unraveling from both ends. What triggers this? Trauma, sepsis, toxins, or sometimes no clear reason at all. It's like your blood panics, and in trying to save you, it drowns you instead. And then there are the rare stories, strange, quiet ones, of people who bled with no wound, their vessels intact, their skin unbroken, And yet, blood leaked from their eyes, their mouth, their pores. Hematidrosis, it's called. A phenomenon where extreme stress causes capillaries near sweat glands to rupture, mixing blood with sweat. Jesus is said to have experienced it in Gethsemane. So did soldiers awaiting battle. Even a few modern cases, all wrapped in confusion, disbelief. Science acknowledges it, but doesn't fully explain it. Your blood responds to fear, to guilt, to pressure, and it can betray you, just as easily as it saves you. Here's something quieter, but no less eerie. Blood can remember trauma. In people who experience severe injury or infection, their blood chemistry may stay altered for years. The white cells become more reactive, the platelets more likely to clot. It's like the body is still waiting for danger, even long after it's passed. Researchers call it trained immunity. Your blood doesn't forget, and that memory can be passed down from mother to child, from one generation to another. In animal studies, offspring born to stressed or traumatized mothers have altered blood chemistry, even if raised in calm environments. The trauma echoes. This isn't metaphor, it's molecules. And speaking of inheritance, did you know that some people have foreign blood inside them? During pregnancy, a small number of fetal cells can cross into the mother's bloodstream and stay there. These cells, genetically distinct, can migrate to the mother's organs, even her brain. Sometimes they help heal. Other times, we don't know. This phenomenon is called microchimerism. It means your blood may carry whispers of another person, their DNA, their history, and it works both ways. Some babies carry maternal cells for years, long after the umbilical cord is cut. Your blood is not entirely yours, and it's always watching. There's another strange behavior, a kind of intuition your blood shows when wounded. If you cut yourself, your blood vessels constrict, a natural reflex to slow the bleeding. But if the wound is large, nearby vessels may do the opposite. They dilate, preparing for help to arrive. It's as if the blood knows the scale of the injury and adapts its strategy accordingly. Doctors have tried to map this, to measure the exact chemical signals involved. But in many cases, the reaction is faster than expected, as if the body is responding to something before the signals arrive. Some call it a reflex. Others wonder if blood has a kind of distributed intelligence, not thought, but something like instinct. And then there's your blood's relationship to oxygen. Most people think oxygen just rides along. But hemoglobin, the molecule that carries oxygen in red blood cells, is complex. It changes shape depending on acidity, temperature, carbon dioxide levels. It adapts, releasing oxygen where it's most needed. It's not a delivery system. It's a negotiation. High-altitude climbers experience this firsthand. Their blood gradually adapts, producing more red cells, becoming more viscous. Too much, and it thickens dangerously. Too little, and they suffocate. Some people die on the slopes, not from cold, but from the stubborn silence of their own blood. And yet here you are, lying still, your blood flowing, warm, silent, unseen, carrying oxygen to your fingers, washing carbon dioxide back from your lungs, balancing hormones, repairing tissues, scanning for invaders. Every heartbeat is a new decision, every drop a messenger, and somewhere inside that flow is you, or at least the part of you that never sleeps. The part that keeps moving even in dreams. So let it move. You don't need to understand it. You just need to know it's listening. You think of your skin as a boundary, a protective shell, a silent wrapper. But that's not what it is. Your skin isn't armor. It's awake. It listens. It adapts. It even remembers. Right now, even in stillness, your skin is scanning for heat, for cold, for the faintest shifts in pressure or light, and for signs that you are not alone. You might not feel it, but your skin does. It's your largest organ, stretched over your frame like a living map. One that's constantly updated with new information, temperature, touch, vibration, chemicals. And underneath all that sensation is a deeper story, one rooted in evolution. Your skin still thinks you're in the forest. That's why you get goosebumps, a reflex from an older self, when raised hairs made your ancestors look bigger in the face of predators. The threat isn't here anymore, but the skin doesn't know that. It still shivers when you're afraid. It still tightens when it feels eyes. And sometimes, it's right. Inside the layers of your skin are millions of mechanoreceptors, each tuned to a specific kind of touch. Some respond only to deep pressure. Others notice the softest brush, a thread, a strand of hair, a passing breeze. There are even receptors that detect vibration at frequencies too subtle for you to notice consciously. The rumble of a distant truck, the beat of a bass note across a room. And when these signals reach your brain, they don't just register as touch, they shape how you feel. They shape who you feel like. That's why long-term isolation, especially touch deprivation, can lead to hallucinations. The brain craves contact. Without it, your sense of self starts to flicker. You begin to feel less real. Astronauts have reported this in space. So have people in solitary confinement, a quiet loss of selfhood beginning at the skin. There's a strange phenomenon known as the rubber hand illusion. It's simple. You place a fake hand in front of you, hide your real one, and have both stroked in sync. Within minutes, your brain begins to accept the rubber hand as part of your body. It's unsettling because it shows how easily your skin's map can be rewritten, how flexible and fragile your sense of ownership really is. Touch can soothe, but it can also haunt. People with phantom touch syndrome sometimes feel sensations on limbs that were never injured or never existed. A tingling on an arm that's been gone for years. A warmth on skin that isn't there. Some believe it's the nervous system firing into empty space. Others wonder if it's a deeper imprint, something in the mind refusing to update the map. And there are stranger cases still. People who experience mirror touch synesthesia feel what others feel. Literally. They watch someone being touched and feel it on their own skin. It's not imagination. Brain scans show real activation in the somatosensory cortex. It's as if their skin has no borders. It merges with others. Some find this beautiful. Others call it a curse. There's another silent behavior, your skin's response to shame. When you're embarrassed, you blush. But what is that? A sudden rush of blood, capillaries opening, heat rising. It's an automatic admission of guilt or awkwardness or emotional exposure. No other species blushes, only humans. Darwin called it the most peculiar and most human of all expressions, because you cannot fake a blush, and you cannot stop one. Your skin decides for you. It exposes your inner world. It betrays your secrets. And then it goes quiet again. Even your fingerprints, those familiar loops and whorls, aren't just for identification. They serve a functional purpose. They enhance your grip, and they amplify vibrations, helping you detect texture and movement more precisely. In darkness, your fingertips are still seeing, still reading the world. There's a subtle field of science that explores cutaneous perception, the way we understand our environment through skin alone. Studies have shown that blind individuals can detect emotional tone, not just physical cues, from a handshake or a light touch. The skin listens for feeling, not just force. And the skin heals, but it does so with memory. Every scar tells your immune system a story. Every scratch, a quiet training. People who heal without scars, a rare condition, are studied for how their skin forgets, how it moves forward without a trace. Most of us don't get that luxury. We carry marks, not just on the outside, but within the skin's immune patterns. A fingerprint of survival. And yes, your skin dreams. During sleep, your body temperature drops slightly. The skin cools. Touch sensitivity increases in some areas, decreases in others. That's why certain blankets feel more comforting than others. Why a whisper of fabric can feel like safety or alarm. Some believe that trauma lives in the skin, not in the memories of events, but in the reactions that linger, the flinch that never left, the warmth that never returned. Even after therapy, even after peace, the skin sometimes remembers a world that wasn't safe and reacts accordingly. But it also learns. Touch over time can rewire the body. Massage, pressure therapy, gentle contact, these things can tell the skin a new story, one of safety, of presence. So tonight, as you rest in stillness, let your skin soften. Let the surface of your body breathe. Not just air, but relief. There is no predator in the brush, no eye in the dark, only the rhythm of your own breath and the quiet forest you carry in your skin. Your eyes are closed now, or maybe only half-lidded, floating in a soft haze. But they still twitch gently beneath the surface, still processing, still dreaming. Even when your world turns dark, your eyes don't completely stop. They never really do. The eye is often described as a camera, a lens, a shutter, a film. But that's a simplification. Your eyes are not just passive receivers of light. They are creators. They filter, they reshape, they fill in gaps, they lie to you, gently. Right now, as you drift, your eyes are likely flickering beneath the lids. The quiet dance of rapid eye movement, or REM. It's believed this motion corresponds to the dreams you're having, as if your eyes are scanning an imaginary world. No one knows for sure, but it suggests something almost magical. Your brain creates visions vivid enough that your eyes follow them. You're seeing with no light, and your eyes believe it. Even when you're awake, your eyes see less than you think. There's a blind spot in each retina, a patch with no photoreceptors at all. Your brain covers it up automatically, borrowing from the surrounding image. You never notice. It fills in the void with certainty. And when something is missing, it invents. Have you ever stared at a single point for too long? A spot on the wall? A pattern in the dark? After a while, the world around it begins to melt. Edges blur, colors vanish, shapes pulse and drift. This is called Troxler fading, a strange trick of the brain to erase unchanging details. It assumes they're not important, and so it erases them from sight. That's the paradox. To see clearly, your eyes must be in motion, always moving, always questioning. Even your eyes' tiny jitters, called microsaccades, help sharpen your vision. Without them, images would fade into fog. When you stare into darkness, your eyes don't rest. They search. They stretch for meaning. They look for shapes in the shadows, and sometimes they find them. Your ancestors relied on this, a flicker of movement in the brush, a glint of reflection. It could mean prey, or predator, or something else entirely. That instinct never left. That's why you sometimes think you saw someone at the edge of the hallway, or a silhouette on the ceiling, a trick of light, or a trick of memory. Because your eyes don't just see the present, they layer it. Your brain stores images, faces, places, fears, and sometimes, when your eyes lack information, it reaches into the archive and pastes in something familiar. That's why, in a forest of shadows, you see a face in the trees. It's called pareidolia, the mind's tendency to see patterns, especially faces, where none exist. A face in the clouds, a person in the window, a presence in the mirror, all illusions, but not mistakes. Because the cost of seeing something that's not there is less than missing something that is. Your eyes err on the side of survival, not accuracy. And then there's the color you don't see. At night, your cone cells, responsible for color vision, go quiet. Your rod cells take over, more sensitive to light, but colorblind. That's why your dreams in the dark feel washed out, gray, or strange. Some animals see more colors than you. Some see less. But no creature sees the truth. Because there is no objective truth to color. It's interpretation, a collaboration between photons and nerves and perception. Even light itself isn't colored. It's just wavelength. Your brain assigns it hue, and what you see may not be what I see. There are people with tetrachromacy, a rare condition where 4 types of cone cells allow them to see colors the rest of us cannot imagine. Not more shades, but entirely new dimensions of color, in clothing, in shadows, in sky. They often don't realize they're different until someone else doesn't see what they see. That's the quiet strangeness of vision. We assume we see the same world, but we don't. Even the pupils in your eyes, those shifting black windows, change shape not just in response to light, but to emotion. When you're aroused, afraid, fascinated, or in love, your pupils widen. They drink in more light. They seek more of the world. And when you're angry or repulsed, they narrow. Your eyes try to shut out the world. You might think no one notices, but they do, unconsciously. Because we read eyes always. Even babies do, before they speak, before they understand words. They look into eyes and understand presence. There's a disorder called blind sight, where people with damage to their visual cortex report being blind. But when asked to guess where objects are or which direction they're moving, they guess correctly. They see without seeing. Some unconscious part of the brain still processes vision. What does that mean? It means you don't need to be aware to perceive. Your eyes are watching, even when you're not. And perhaps the most mysterious thing, when you close your eyes at night, your brain begins to project imagery from within. Not memory, not quite fantasy, but something in between. Dreams, visual, detailed, immersive. Even those who lose their sight later in life often retain visual dreams. Their brain remembers how to see, even when the eyes no longer work. So now, as you settle deeper into this moment, think of your eyes as resting, but not off. They are still part of the story, still part of the watch. They've been with you through every fear, every flicker, every vision in the dark. So let them rest now. Let the shadows soften. Let your inner vision take over and see whatever it wants to see. You're not moving now, but your muscles are. Beneath the stillness of your body, subtle tensions ripple and release, tiny contractions, gentle pulses, so small you may never notice them, but they're there. You're never fully still. Even when you sleep, especially when you sleep, your muscles are making decisions. There's a kind of secret choreography happening inside you. Most of your muscles move only when you tell them to. You lift your hand, you stretch your legs, you reach, half walk, blink. But not all of them ask permission. Some contract on their own, governed not by your will but by reflexes, ancient loops of nerve and feedback that bypass your thoughts entirely. Right now, your diaphragm is rising and falling, breathing for you. You could stop it briefly, but only briefly, because eventually your muscles override your will. They don't ask, they act. They keep you alive. It's a quiet kind of mercy, and sometimes a quiet kind of terror. Take sleep paralysis, for instance, a strange state where the body is paralyzed, but the mind wakes up. You try to move, to turn your head, to call out, but your muscles ignore you. This is no glitch, it's by design. During REM sleep, your brain temporarily disables most voluntary muscle control to prevent you from acting out your dreams. It's a safety feature. But if you wake during that paralysis, caught between worlds, it feels like imprisonment. Many cultures have myths about this. A demon on the chest, a shadow in the doorway, a hand holding you down. Science now understands it. But that doesn't make it less eerie. And then there are the myoclonic jerks, those sudden twitches as you fall asleep, like a misstep into nothingness. It's your muscles reacting. To what? No one knows for sure. Some say it's a leftover evolutionary reflex, a way for the brain to check if the body is safe, supported. Others think it's just a misfire, a nervous system sending the wrong message, a dream leaking into motion. But it feels like a ghost of movement, like falling when you haven't moved at all. Muscle memory is another quiet marvel. When you learn to play an instrument, ride a bike, type without looking, your brain slowly transfers that knowledge to your muscles. Not literally, but to motor circuits so refined, so practiced, they no longer need conscious input. You can forget the notes and still play the song. That's the beauty and the danger of unconscious motion. A boxer might dodge a punch before he's even aware it was coming. A driver slams the brake before the mind has fully processed the danger. And in darker moments, the body can remember trauma long after the mind forgets. People who've survived accidents or violence sometimes report startling muscle reactions in calm moments, tensing, ducking, recoiling, with no trigger they can name. The body flinches because it remembers. That's somatic memory, the way your muscles, fascia, and nerves store experience. Science is still unraveling how it works. Some dismiss it as emotional suggestion. Others argue it's embedded in the nervous system, real, physical, reactive. And then there's mirror movement, when a child lifts one hand and the other rises with it, not because they meant to, but because the motor pathways haven't fully separated yet. Some adults retain this. The body sometimes can't not mimic. It reflects without being told. Have you ever watched someone yawn and felt your own mouth open? Seen someone stretch and needed to stretch too? Your muscles mirror, not out of politeness, but because the body doesn't always distinguish between self and other. It just reacts. Even when you lie completely still, your postural muscles work in the background, holding your neck, your spine, your limbs in gentle balance. A constant dance of micro-adjustments, so subtle they vanish into background noise. But without them, you'd slump, collapse, drift out of alignment. Your body never really rests. It maintains, quietly. And then there's the heart. Yes, it's a muscle too, a special one. Cardiac muscle cells don't tire the way skeletal muscles do. They contract, rest, contract. Not all at once, but in waves, forever, unless stopped. Another strange case, muscle fasciculations, those tiny, involuntary twitches that ripple across the skin. Often harmless, but sometimes ominous. Neurologists watch them closely, because when they become more frequent, more pronounced, they can signal something deeper. A neuron misfiring, a disease waking up, but most of the time, they're just noise. The body's static, a flicker. Even your gut muscles, the ones you don't feel, are contracting in waves called peristalsis. They move food along. They do their work in darkness, without fanfare. You eat, you digest, you sleep, and your muscles never stop. There are some muscles you can't control no matter how hard you try, like the erector pili, those tiny muscles that make your hairs stand up. Goosebumps. You feel a shiver, a memory, a song, and they rise. It's a relic, a muscle memory from long ago, but it's still there, still moving. And here's a thought. What if you're more movement than stillness? Your heart, your breath, your gut, your blood, even your eyes, behind closed lids. You are 1,000 small motions layered atop one another. So now, as you lie still, know this. Stillness isn't the absence of motion, it's the body finding balance. Let your muscles drift. Let them hold you gently, then release. They've done their work for today, and they'll keep going, even in dreams. There's a theater in your mind. Its curtains never fully close. And even now, as your body drifts into stillness, the rehearsal continues. You might think that rest is when the brain stops, powers down, idles in silence. But that's not what happens. Not even close. When you lie still, especially as something sleep approaches scenes, your brain begins to replay. Not random images, not just dreams, but memories, sequences. Experiences so recent you might not even know they've left a mark. This is your default mode network at work, a group of brain regions that lights up when you're not focused on the outside world. It activates when you're daydreaming, reflecting, wandering, and it loves stillness. Right now, this network is reviewing what you felt earlier today. Not just what you did, but how it felt. It reshapes the narrative. It softens the rough edges. Sometimes it heightens them. And while that happens, another process begins. Memory consolidation. Your brain replays the events of the day, sometimes sped up, sometimes fragmented, and files them away. Like a librarian sifting through a pile of unsorted pages. What's important? What gets stored? What gets forgotten? You don't get to choose. The brain does. And often, emotion decides. That's why moments of stress, surprise, or pain burn brighter in memory than peaceful, ordinary hours. It's not fair, but it's adaptive. Your brain remembers what might protect you, even if it haunts you. There's something eerie about how this happens. Scientists have recorded the brains of sleeping animals and watched specific neurons fire in the same pattern they did during waking tasks. A rat running a maze by day runs it again in its sleep. Faster, tighter, improved. Humans do it too. Your brain practices when you're not watching, and sometimes it rewrites. That conversation you had earlier, your mind might change how you remember it, shift the tone, add new context. Emotions fill in the blanks where facts are hazy. Memory isn't a recording, it's a story, and your brain is the storyteller. What's stranger still is that this rehearsal doesn't just solidify real memories. It also prepares for imagined events. Before you speak in public, before you have a difficult conversation, before something big or uncertain, your brain starts simulating. It plays out scenarios. It runs mental dress rehearsals, not just in thoughts, but in brain activity that mirrors real experience. Muscles prime, heart rate changes. You haven't done the thing yet, but you're already doing it in miniature. This is called pre-play, the brain's habit of anticipating, practicing, protecting. And it never really turns off. Even as you lie here, some part of your mind is preparing for tomorrow, not consciously, but quietly. In images, in fragments, in feelings that don't yet have names. And sometimes these simulations get stuck, a loop, a worry, an intrusive thought. Your mind keeps rehearsing the danger, the worst case scenario, not because it wants to, but because it's trying to be ready. It doesn't always know when to stop. There's a condition called rumination, the cycle of thoughts repeating, unresolved, unwelcome. People with anxiety or depression know it well. It feels like the brain has turned against itself. But even here, it's just trying to rehearse a way out. And there are ways to soothe it. Gentle breathing, soft sound. Even the act of lying down, of stillness, sends signals back to the brain. You're safe. You can stop now. Over time, the rehearsal slows. Thoughts untangle, the loop quiets, and another phenomenon takes over. Synaptic pruning, the slow, careful trimming of unused connections in the brain. Like gardeners in the dark, glial cells move through your mind, removing what's no longer needed, clearing space, sharpening the paths that matter. This happens most during sleep. So every night, you become more yourself by forgetting what you no longer need to remember. And perhaps the strangest rehearsal of all, lucid dreaming. The moment when the dreaming mind realizes it's dreaming and begins to direct the play. Some people can train for this. Some stumble into it by accident. But it raises a quiet question. If your brain can create a world so vivid you don't know it's fake, how do you know what's real? You don't. Not completely, but your body knows what's safe. And this moment, the stillness, the quiet breathing, the faint hum of your room, it tells your brain, you can stop rehearsing now. Not forever, just for now. So let the thoughts continue if they must, but loosen their grip. Let the curtain fall. Let the lights dim. The theater will still be here tomorrow. Tonight, you rest. There's a war happening inside you, right now, even in rest, even in sleep. But it's not loud. It's quiet, subtle, almost elegant. Your immune system is one of the most complex, mysterious, and eerily intelligent systems your body has. And it never, ever stops watching. Not for beauty, not for meaning, but for anything that doesn't belong. Every cell, every molecule, every whisper of something foreign, it notices. And it decides, friend or foe. Right now, drifting somewhere between thought and dream, your immune system is doing its work. Reading molecular signals, running silent code, asking the same question again and again. Are you you? It's a question of identity. Every cell in your body wears a name tag, a molecular marker that says, this is me. But the immune system doesn't just accept that. It verifies, cross-checks, runs algorithms older than language. If anything seems off, if a name tag looks forged, altered, unfamiliar, it acts. Sometimes quietly, sometimes with fire. A fever is not an accident. It's an ancient decision. Your body raises its temperature on purpose to make life harder for viruses and bacteria. Even a small increase can slow an infection's progress. It's not pleasant, but it's intentional. And when your body hurts during illness, the aches, the chills, the fatigue, that's not the invader, that's you. That's your immune system pulling energy away from everything else, focusing all effort on the battle. Even your emotions change. You may feel irritable, withdrawn, heavy. It's not weakness, it's strategic. Your body wants you to lie down, to stop moving, to heal, and you obey. Not by choice, but by chemistry. But here's where it gets stranger. Your immune system doesn't just defend, it remembers. It keeps a record of every microbe it's ever encountered, a living archive of viral blueprints, bacterial faces, fungal fingerprints. This is your adaptive immunity. The reason vaccines work, the reason you rarely get the same illness twice. Your immune system builds antibodies, proteins that mark intruders for destruction, and stores them in memory cells. And these cells, they can last decades. That cold you had as a child? Your immune system still remembers it. Somewhere in your blood, a cell floats by that could recognize it again, instantly. It's as if your body carries its own silent library. Not of words, but of threats. But like any archive, it can get confused. Sometimes the system misfires. It mistakes you for an enemy. That's what happens in autoimmune disorders, conditions where the immune system attacks healthy tissue. Rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, type 1 diabetes. They're not outside invasions. They're internal errors. A kind of body-wide identity crisis. The code becomes corrupted. The system forgets who you are, and no one knows exactly why. There are theories, infections gone wrong, genetics, trauma, but no final answer. It's as if the immune system remembers too much, or not quite enough. And then there's the hygiene hypothesis, the idea that modern cleanliness may confuse the immune system. That without enough exposure to dirt, germs, and parasites, the body becomes bored and starts attacking itself. It's not confirmed, but it's compelling. Children raised on farms tend to have fewer autoimmune conditions. Those with pets in early life, especially dogs, often have fewer allergies. Maybe your immune system needs practice, needs exposure to chaos in order to stay calm. And when you sleep, especially in deep sleep, your immune system becomes more active. Not in destruction, but in rebuilding. It sends out repair signals. Inflammation decreases, white blood cells become more efficient, even your brain clears itself. Through the glymphatic system, a kind of nighttime cleaning crew that flushes out waste proteins, including some associated with Alzheimer's. This process barely happens when you're awake. But in sleep, it flows. It's as if your body waits for quiet before doing its most sacred work. And here's a quiet wonder. Some immune cells can talk to neurons. They share chemical messengers. They influence mood, behavior, even learning. This has a name, neuroimmunology. The study of how your brain and immune system are connected. And the more we learn, the less separate they seem. Your emotions can suppress immunity. Your immune system can alter thought. People with chronic inflammation often experience depression. Some psychiatric disorders may involve immune dysregulation, and certain immune-modulating treatments can change personality. So where does the immune system end and you begin? There may be no clean line, just a conversation. A code being run, a dream being interpreted, molecule by molecule. And even stranger, your immune system may react to memory. Studies show that people can mount immune responses simply by recalling stressful events. The mind remembers fear, and the body prepares for battle, even when there's nothing there. So tonight, as your mind begins to drift and your breath falls into rhythm, know this. There's another rhythm within you. One not of thought or feeling, but of silent, ceaseless protection. Not perfect, but relentless. A system that guards your borders, heals your wounds, and remembers every ghost it's ever met. So let it do its work. Let it dream its chemical dreams. You don't need to understand the code. You just need to rest. You don't often think about your bones. They're too quiet, too deep, too still. But right now, as you lie there, the weight of your body pressing softly into your mattress, they are holding you together in silence. Not like scaffolding, more like memory. Because your bones are not lifeless. They are not stone. They're alive, breathing, changing. You are not made of hard things, but of slow things. Right now, your skeleton, all 206 bones of it, is actively reshaping itself. Tiny cells called osteoblasts are building. Others, osteoclasts, are quietly tearing down, a slow dance of destruction and repair. You're being remodeled as you rest. Every 7 to 10 years, your skeleton replaces itself entirely. Not all at once, but cell by cell, whisper by whisper. And even while you sleep, the weight of your dreams presses through you, down into the spine, the hips, the soles of the feet. Bones listen to gravity. They adapt to load. That's why astronauts lose bone mass in space, not from disease, but from freedom. Without pressure, the bones think they're no longer needed. They soften and fade. And yet, bones remember injury. A break from childhood leaves behind a permanent signature. Not just a scar, but a change in density, in shape, in texture. Years later, doctors can still read that story, like a secret carved in silence. And sometimes bones remember things you never lived. In certain populations, researchers have found traces of famine, war, or hardship written into the skeletal structure, in growth lines, in curvature, in thickness. These marks aren't just genetic, they're epigenetic. Instructions passed down through environment, stress, survival. It means your bones might carry echoes of lives before yours. Not in metaphor, in mineral. And your bones don't stop once they form. They listen to hormones. They respond to sleep. They reflect diet, sunlight, exercise, fear. People with long-term anxiety often show signs of bone loss, not because of movement, but because of chemical imbalance. Cortisol, the stress hormone, can weaken bones over time, silently, relentlessly. Your skeleton holds up your body, but it also absorbs your life. There's something else. Your bones are hollow in places, but not empty. Inside is bone marrow, one of the most active tissues in your body. It's not just filler, it's where blood is born. Red cells, white cells, platelets. They all begin in the marrow, deep inside the hips, the sternum, the spine. Every second, your marrow produces over 2 million new blood cells, quietly, patiently, without praise. It's strange to think that deep inside the most solid parts of you, there is a liquid storm of life, a system that works in shadows, invisible, but essential. And bones sing. Not with sound you can hear, but with piezoelectricity, a phenomenon where pressure on bone generates tiny electrical currents. Your body uses these signals to guide healing, to stimulate growth. It's a kind of whisper, a conversation between structure and sensation. And when you move, your bones remember. Weightlifters develop denser bones in areas of stress. Dancers show bone patterns shaped by grace, repetition, impact. Even posture leaves a mark. How you sit, how you sleep, how you brace yourself against the world. Your bones listen to all of it. And there are deeper mysteries still. Some researchers believe bones act as endocrine organs, releasing hormones that affect the brain, metabolism, fertility. Osteocalcin, for example, a hormone made in bone, has been shown to influence memory, mood, even fear response in mice. It means your bones may shape your thoughts, your dreams, your very sense of self. We used to think the mind and body were separate, that thoughts lived in the brain and nowhere else. But your bones disagree. They are the record keepers, the hidden narrators. the quiet scribes of everything you've survived. And in death, bones are often the last to remain. Long after the skin fades, long after the name is lost, bones stay and speak. Archaeologists know this. They reconstruct stories from fragments, a femur, a jaw, a rib. They read fractures, measure density, trace lineage. The dead still whisper through calcium and silence. And in some cultures, bones are sacred, kept, honored. Not because they were once alive, but because they still are. So tonight, as you sink deeper into stillness, let your skeleton be what it is. Not rigid, but responsive, not dead, but deeply alive. Let it hold you. Let it remember. Let it rest. Because while you sleep, your bones keep count of every breath, every shift, every soft pressure of the night. They are the frame for your becoming, and they will carry you forward. There's a second mind inside you. It doesn't speak in words, it doesn't think in logic, but it knows. Right now, deep in your abdomen, your gut is alive with quiet activity. Not just digestion, not just breaking down food, but something far more mysterious. Your gut is thinking, sensing, remembering. Some call it the second brain. Others say that's too generous. But those who've listened closely know it's not wrong. Your digestive system contains over 100 million neurons, more than the spinal cord. This is the enteric nervous system. It can operate independently of your brain. It has reflexes, instincts, and chemical messages of its own. And often, it speaks first. Have you ever felt a knot in your stomach before a difficult moment? A wave of nausea before bad news? A quiet pull towards someone you haven't even spoken to? That's not emotion traveling downward. It's sensation traveling upward. The gut doesn't wait for your brain's opinion. In fact, up to 90% of the information in the vagus nerve, the superhighway connecting your gut and brain, flows from the gut to the brain, not the other way around. It means your gut is informing your thoughts, not just reacting to them. And it's not just nerves. Your gut is home to over 100 trillion microbes, more than there are stars in the Milky Way. These bacteria, viruses, and fungi form your microbiome, a dynamic, invisible community that helps digest food, train your immune system, and influence your brain chemistry. Certain gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA. Yes, the same chemicals that shape mood, motivation, and anxiety. Over 90% of your body's serotonin is found in the gut, which means your happiness might start there. When the microbiome is healthy, its influence is subtle. But when it's disrupted by stress, antibiotics, poor diet, its absence is felt like a missing limb. Brain fog, irritability, depression. Even disorders like autism and Parkinson's disease have been linked to imbalances in the gut. We still don't fully understand it, but the evidence grows. A feeling in your belly is often more than just hunger. It's data. And the gut is also home to interoception, the ability to sense your internal state. Not just pain or fullness, but subtle things. Your heart rate, your temperature, your hormonal shifts. Interoception is what allows you to feel like a body, not just a mind. And your gut plays a starring role. It doesn't use language. It uses rhythm. Waves of muscle contractions, peristalsis, move food and fluid through your intestines. Even when you sleep, the rhythm continues, a gentle motion, a background lullaby. But sometimes that rhythm stutters. Stress doesn't just affect your thoughts. It tightens the gut, slows digestion, spikes acid, twists sensation into discomfort. Irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, is a prime example of this brain-gut dance, not caused by bacteria, not by infection, but by miscommunication. The brain sends danger, the gut hears alarm, and everything spirals. It's a reminder, your body believes your thoughts, and your gut takes them seriously. There's also a kind of gut memory, though we don't yet understand how it works. Transplanted organs sometimes carry strange echoes. There are rare reports of people receiving intestinal transplants and developing new food preferences or emotional reactions to things they'd never felt before. Science remains skeptical, but intrigued. Could the gut hold memory in some chemical way? A trace of experience imprinted in tissue? No one knows, but the gut does remember danger. That's why food poisoning makes such a deep impression. Even years later, a single whiff of that food can cause nausea. It's not psychological, it's protective. Your gut remembers what hurt you and tries to protect you, even when you don't ask. And there's something gentle too. When you feel loved, safe, content, your gut softens, it digests better, moves more freely, hums instead of clenches. Love lives in the gut too. Even infants, before they speak, before they understand, show gut responses to the presence of their caregivers. Their bellies calm when held. Their tiny systems relax in the presence of another. It's not hunger, it's safety. And perhaps that's the most profound role the gut plays. It tells you whether you feel safe or not. Before thought, before logic, it whispers yes or no, stay or leave, trust or beware. So now, as you settle deeper into stillness, let that space beneath your ribs be soft. Let the rhythm of your gut continue, gentle and slow. Let it process not just food, but feeling. It doesn't ask much, just quiet, just presence. It's been here with you since the beginning, long before you could think, long before you had words. And it will be here, still humming, long after the lights go out. You're wrapped in something ancient right now, not a blanket, not the air, but yourself, your skin. It holds you in and keeps the world out. And yet, somehow, it connects you to everything. The skin is your largest organ. It breathes, senses, reacts, all without your asking. Right now, it's absorbing the temperature of the room, the softness of the fabric, the hush of the air, and it's listening. Because skin doesn't just feel touch, it interprets it. It decides what's safe, what's soothing, what's wrong. Some of those signals are loud, the sting of a burn, the chill of cold water, but others are almost imperceptible. The warmth of sunlight on your arm, the pressure of a hand on your shoulder, the weight of your own body on the mattress. Your skin maps all of this, and more strangely, it remembers. There are people who have lost a limb and still feel it, a hand that isn't there, a ghost foot that itches. These are phantom limbs, a phenomenon where the brain continues to receive signals from nerves that no longer end in flesh. Because the skin's memory lives on, not just in the body, but in the brain. And when that map no longer matches reality, the mind fills in the blanks. Even stranger, gentle touch can heal the map. That's why therapies like mirror therapy, where a patient sees a reflection of their intact limb, can sometimes relieve phantom pain, because the brain believes what the eyes see. And the skin believes what the brain believes. The communication flows both ways. And it's not just injury, it's connection. Have you ever noticed how touch changes emotion? A hand held during grief, a hug after fear, a quiet brushing of hair. The skin translates these as safety, as softness, as being known. Your skin contains specialized cells, C-tactile afferents, that are tuned specifically for gentle, slow strokes. Not fast, not forceful, just soft. These nerves send signals to the brain's emotional centers, not the logical ones. They tell you, you are not alone. Even newborns respond to this. Skin-to-skin contact with a parent stabilizes their heart rate, calms their breathing, increases weight gain. It's not just comfort, it's biology. And when you're alone, your skin still listens. To temperature, to tension, to movement. It's why stress makes you itch. Why anxiety can make you feel flushed or cold. Your skin is reactive, not just a barrier, but a messenger. Underneath its surface are millions of tiny sensors for pressure, heat, stretch, pain. And sometimes they misfire. There are people with allodynia, a condition where even the lightest touch feels painful. A breeze, a soft shirt, a fingertip. It's not in their imagination. It's in the nerves, the skin's way of misreading the world. And at the other extreme, there are people who feel too little. A rare genetic disorder called congenital insensitivity to pain leaves the skin unresponsive to injury. These individuals don't notice cuts, bruises, even burns. They live in a world without warning. And it's dangerous. Because pain, though unpleasant, is protective. It teaches boundaries. It says, this is too much, but it also whispers, you are here. You are alive. Even goosebumps are a skin response, triggered by emotion, by cold, by music. Tiny muscles contract around hair follicles, raising the skin. It's a leftover reflex, one that once made our ancestors appear larger in danger. Now it's just a quiet echo, but it still rises when you feel awe, or fear, or love. The skin listens to the body's emotions and responds before you're even aware. It blushes when embarrassed, sweats when nervous, pales when afraid. You don't choose these responses. They happen on their own, like truth slipping through the surface. And then there's the mystery of skin hunger, the ache for touch in its absence. When people go too long without human contact, they don't just feel lonely. They get sicker, sleep worse, heal slower because the skin expects contact. It was designed for it. In some languages, the word for skin also means world, because it's how we know we're separate and how we know we're connected. So now, in this moment, Even if you're alone, know that your skin is still sensing, still grounding you in space, still offering presence. Let yourself feel the soft air on your arms, the pressure of your back against the bed, the rhythm of your breath rising and falling beneath your ribs. Let the skin speak without words. Let it reassure you. You're safe. You're here. And when you sleep, your skin will go with you, quietly mapping the warmth, the stillness, the calm. It doesn't need language, only contact, only presence. There's something holding everything together. It isn't muscle or bone or thought. It's softer than all of those, more subtle, more overlooked. It's fascia, the web beneath the skin, a layer of silken tissue that wraps around your organs, your muscles, your nerves, not to protect, but to connect. Right now, as you lie still, your fascia is still moving, slowly, silently, like a tide beneath the surface. Most people never think about it, but fascia is everywhere. A translucent matrix that gives your body its shape and, more strangely, its memory. Because fascia is more than structure. It responds to emotion, to trauma, to breath. It tightens when you're afraid. It softens when you feel safe. It stores tension like a diary, recording every braced shoulder, every clenched jaw, every held breath. And when you release, it remembers how to let go. Even now, as you sink deeper into rest, your fascia may be unfurling, letting go of postures you didn't know you were holding, softening, strand by strand. Some believe this is where emotion lives, not in the mind alone, but in the body's architecture. That grief can curl into the fascia of the chest. That anxiety can pull tight around the hips. That joy can ripple across your whole frame like wind through leaves. Science doesn't yet understand all of it, but it listens. And in therapy rooms and quiet studios, people have wept not from memory, but from release, as if the body finally let the past go, because the body is always waiting, always holding, until it knows it can soften. Fascia is also how your body feels itself, how it senses where you begin and end. It's part of your proprioception, your internal map of self in space. Without it, you'd stumble, fall, be lost in the dark of your own body. Even lying here, your brain is receiving signals from fascia, pressure, tension, shape. It knows where you are, because fascia keeps whispering the coordinates. It's also sensitive to time. Have you noticed how long-term stress makes your body tighter? Not just metaphorically, physically. Fascia thickens under stress. It becomes less fluid, more fibrous, a protective shell, a suit of armor. It's how the body tries to shield itself. But over time, that armor becomes weight, and it can linger even when the danger is gone. That's why certain stretches or movements, gentle, slow, feel more emotional than physical. They reach into places we forgot we were guarding. Some practitioners say you can feel memories release, not as images, but as warmth, tears, a long exhale. Whether that's science or sensation, it's real to the person experiencing it. And isn't that enough? There's a quiet idea in somatic work that healing doesn't always begin in the mind. Sometimes it begins in the tissue, with stillness, with breath, with the smallest unwinding. And the deeper you rest, the more the body trusts. So tonight, allow it. Let the layers soften. Let the tension ease, not because you force it, but because you've stopped bracing. Let the ground carry you. Let your skin be still. Let the web within you remember how to float. You don't have to fix anything, or solve, or hold. Just rest. The body will continue, breathing, repairing, remembering. Let it do what it knows. You've come this far, and your body is still here. Breathing, alive, holding more stories than you'll ever recall. Your muscles are at ease. Your bones are quiet. Your blood moves gently, like a stream in moonlight. The nerves that sparked all day are finally still. The thoughts are soft. The edges are round. There's nothing left you need to rehearse. No danger to guard against. No weight to hold up. Just this moment. You're not empty. You're full of rhythm, of memory, of presence. Let it all be. Let it hum in the background. Let your body continue its quiet work, healing, dreaming, becoming. There is no rush, no ending to race toward. Sleep doesn't arrive like a switch. It arrives like fog, like dusk, like a blanket settling over everything. And when it comes, let it take you. You don't need to hear the last word or make sense of every thought. You don't need to remember what came before. Just drift. Let your body soften into the night. Let the quiet carry you. That's all for tonight. Let your mind keep floating or drift into sleep. I'll be here again next time.